Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Context Studios Banned Book Club, where we read like freedom depends on it. I'm so excited to have you guys here with me for this next episode of our In Conversation series. To be honest, I am a little bit behind on things, so this was a really special episode for me, and I wanted to make it perfect and make sure the editing aligned with kind of what I was hoping. So that's why, I'm dressed differently than I was for the interview. The lighting is a little different. I've taken this introduction probably 4 times because I'm such a fan of this person. I wanted to make sure that I could do it justice. So for this episode, we will be discussing and exploring themes in The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. This was April's read, and if you guys haven't seen it, I already released my solo episode about it. It was a little bit of a different type of vlog style as well. I went to a kite festival, I made a shag, I went to Kew Gardens. It was kind of an interesting video to film. It kept rolling over. The vlogging process is new to me. I am not, I guess, inherently someone who likes to just take my phone out places and start filming. I mean, I do, but not in that way. Anyways, I'm starting to get into it, and I want to do more of it for this channel. But I posted a video talking about that, the themes, why it was banned, my opinion on it. I think so far it's been my favorite book in the Banned Book Club, or one of them. It's hard to say. I mean, to be honest, I've enjoyed reading all of them, but I think definitely it's up there if it's not my top favorite. And I just bought A Thousand Splendid Suns as well, so I'll be reading that. And anyways, I'm always sidetracked. Back to the episodes. Today's guest is the one and only Najibullah Quraishi, an award-winning Afghan journalist, filmmaker, and war correspondent. He has over 2 decades of experience in the field. He's a 4-time Emmy winner, and he's the founder of Clover Films, a media company that creates their own documentaries, does their own broadcasting, and puts out their own stories. So I first came across Najibullah Quraishi's work when I watched The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, which was a PBS Channel 4 special about the practice of Bacha Bazi. So Bacha Bazi, meaning boy play, is a practice in which boys from typically rural, poor backgrounds are exploited by warlords, rich and wealthy, powerful people within Afghanistan. And in this practice specifically, they are made to dress as women and dance and perform. And it is a type of sexual servitude, sexual slavery. The boys are usually 10, 12, 13, and their families are offered money, and a lot of times they have no choice but to be joining these exploitative practices. As you guys know, I have studied human trafficking. I've worked in the anti-trafficking space. I talk and I think a lot about exploitation, and this was a topic that I have written about in my own work, spoken about kind of with people in my own time, and I'm very excited to be talking about it today. So we're going to be discussing Bacha Bazi, the Dancing Boys, why people would join this practice, and some of the risks and safeguardings associated with being a filmmaker and journalist in conflict zones. So without further ado, welcome to the episode. All right, Najibullah, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? So before filming The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, what inspired you to start making documentaries, and how did you enter the space?
Well, if I would say this was like a childhood interest when I was at the school. I was running some small shows within the class and schools while I was in grade 6, 7, 8, those years. But obviously I was in Afghanistan, and I was born there and I grew up there. So yeah, then I started working for local national radio and television over there back in 90s, late 90s. That was when I began. And then in 2001, I make it a little bit shorter. I joined Western media, or the world media. So I thought to have a bigger steps from local or national television to the world. And obviously I studied general while I was in Afghanistan. I had my weekly television program, like 2 weekly program on the television, which I was directing, producing. and also presenting my own weekly show. Then I had 4 radio programs at that time. But
Wow.
when I came here, obviously I studied. I did another further studies here in the UK. Then I decided to do one field, which was documentary. That was my deep interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved to the UK back in 2002, so almost 24 years now. Yeah, by the time when I came, I wasn't able to say yes or no in English.
Okay.
So yeah, but I studied, and I used to work as a freelancer to so many channels
Within the UK?
within UK. Yeah, but my film was always worldwide. For example,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it was for PBS Frontline. Most of my film heard from there.
Mhm.
Then here, Channel 5, Channel 4, BBC. Yeah, then
Right.
Al Jazeera, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Internationally for Al Jazeera, especially in the recent years,
Mm-hmm.
because the topics I was working on, it was more internationally. So Al Jazeera was the best option for me to go. But as a filmmaker, I know which story is perfect for whom.
Right.
So if I
Right.
found some topics, I know this topic could be uh, perfect for Channel 4, or this could
Mhm.
be really good for Frontline, or this is better for Al Jazeera. So
Right.
I should know all these things.
And is that something that is that a skill that you feel like you've always been able to have? Like, you know, when you get a story, who's going to be the best audience for it? Or do you think that's something that you've had to really refine over time through experience?
Well, first, depend on the story. If it's really breaking up something, if it's really related, for example, for the UK, then I would
Mm-hmm.
chase some broadcasters in the UK. If I
Mm-hmm.
think this is really involving American,
Mm-hmm.
or this is really involving Australian, then I would go to Australia or Canada or America.
Right.
For example, in the last, NATO war in Afghanistan for 20 years. So I
Right.
was covering some areas which was mainly, for example, running by German troops, or they were involved. Then I would go to Germany, ZDF, or
Mm-hmm.
India.
Right.
Yeah, they were also another one.
Uh-huh.
Or Danish television, I also work for. So this
Okay.
is all related to what nation have interest. But if
Right.
there is some mixed topic, for example, it's okay, this is America, Britain, everybody has interest, even Western, like Middle East or Asian country, then I would go for Al Jazeera because they air worldwidely, and everybody could see that.
And kind of going back to PBS Frontline, that was where you produced the documentary that we'll be discussing today, The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan. So we'll be talking about what led you to investigate this and create this film. But for some of the listeners that aren't familiar, would you mind explaining what Bacha Bazi is?
Yeah, just to add this, it wasn't only for PBS, it was for Channel 4 as well. At the same time, they
Right.
broadcasted at the same time, same night.
Thank
Well,
you.
Bacha Bazi, it's or the Dancing Boys, if we can translate in another way to make sense.
Hmm.
Because most of the audience, they don't know what is Bacha Bazi. Bacha Bazi, if you translate that, it's become the Dancing Boys. This is the
Okay.
film title as well, the documentary title as well.
Hmm.
So I knew about Bacha Bazi because it was going on around that part of the world, like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, those areas, especially in some villages. It has a history background. If you read some poem from the past 4 years, 300 years back, you would see they were saying something about the boys. You have a nice
Okay.
look, or they were saying like adjective words on this.
Yeah.
So some people were referring this that the poem they have somehow interest, or maybe the national have an interest to the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And it was started from there basically. Whatever, sometimes people are misusing something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably their mint was completely different. Probably they were thinking different way. But
Right.
later on, at that time, obviously, there wasn't Afghanistan, there wasn't Pakistan. It was one big land covering like 4, 5, 6 countries, which was calling Khorasan at the time.
Khorasan. Mm-hmm.
So they were historically, there were some poem, something about boys and so on. Probably they meant something else, but they were referring the boys. What happened slowly in the villages, some people got interest in this. For example, when there was a party or when they had nothing to do, uh, the uh, the person who, the elder of that village, or the person who was leading the village, then he was taking some parties, especially in the winter nights, which was the nights are really long. And they were inviting some of their friends. In the meantime, some younger boys were coming because it is taboo within adult to do dancing in front of others. But what they
Okay.
were doing, they were ordering some boys because they have to obey the order.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy,
Mm-hmm.
get some dance. And then that poor guy or boy was keep dancing. Slowly, like expanded everywhere.
Okay.
And especially in the last 3, 4 decades, it
Mm-hmm.
became very common, especially within wealthy people, within some world warlords,
Mm-hmm.
within some commanders. And
Mm-hmm.
then even at computation, they had some boys and they had 3, 4 boys. They were competing in front, like with the music proper, within their
Right.
friends. This
Right.
has been expanded like in a different way, in a really bad way of being. It should be like that. And then what happened in 80s or late 70s when Russia invaded Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of the commanders and they had interest. Obviously, they withdraw. They went to Pakistan and some Iran. And what they were doing, they were keep practicing this because they had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do that, nothing to do anything else. Like it was the only entertainment they could have.
Where do these boys typically come from?
Poor families. These
Or
guys, these young boys, normally comes from really vulnerable, poor families.
mm-hmm.
And obviously these wealthy or commanders, they have been misusing them. They have to be really attractive, according, handsome, beautiful, according to them, to be
Mm-hmm.
attractive as well. And they want,
Right.
if they could look like women, that could be. That's why they wear women's clothing. They wear some jewelries. Even
Yeah.
the way they act, they are not gay, or they are not like trans. They are proper straight
Mm-hmm.
men. Young boys, they're clean. They like
Mm-hmm.
that's what they are using. The boys like 10 years, 11, 12. They don't have beard. They don't have nothing.
Right. They're
Children,
children.
obviously, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Well, and I guess to you, what is the significance of wearing the women's clothes? Why is that part of the practice? Has that always been historically associated with the dancing boys, or has that just been something that's emerged in the last 30 to 40 years since you said there's been a
It's become
resurgence?
really common in the last 4 decades. Well, that was I don't know. That idea came from probably a couple of wealthy people. Let's give them some women's clothes. How does it look?
Then.
That become really common at the end.
Hmm.
So wherever parties you're going, they were using some makeup. They were doing wearing some clothing, and then they got really interested if they could wear them, like putting on them like the woman's clothing. That
Hmm.
would have been different, enjoyable. And that
Right.
was the main job of the owner of the boy. So he was doing everything. So it has to look perfect for his eyes. And
Yes.
because they were competing, so they were saying, okay, you have to be, for example, nowadays, like some celebrity, they have their own beautician, like they do everything.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
was the owner. It is the
Oh,
owner to do all these things.
and I
Look
think we
at
saw that.
yeah,
We saw that as well with Dastakar as well. You know, he
exactly.
had his boys that were his favorite that he put on this special jewelry for. And these boys, they're so young, they're completely vulnerable in this situation. And I think especially, this kind of leads into my next question about the families, but when these boys are in a position where they feel like they're the only way that their families can have any type of income, any type of money. And because, I think Dastigar had mentioned he was sending money monthly back to these families. I guess this is a two-part question. So, do you think that the families are typically informed about where their son is going? I mean, I think I observed some element of denial when you spoke with the families in the documentaries. And two, do you think that these pimps and these people that are trafficking the boys, do you think there is actually money that's going to these families, or do you think it's all kind of a ruse in order to exploit these boys, and then nothing goes back to the families?
Well, when they do promise that they will get some income from them, yes, they would get. At the
Okay.
beginning, yes, these warlords, these wealthy, probably they send some money monthly or something. But remember, once the boy is inside entertainment, inside the game, he will make lots of money. For
Mm-hmm.
example, every commander, every people like pay him,
Mm-hmm.
or some people throw money on them. So they
Right.
have one guy, they gather all the money again and give it to the boy. So it's mean the boy become wealthy himself. After a couple of months, he is able to help his family. Then the commander says, okay, now you have lots of money, you found this type of money, or this guy gave you this amount of money. So now you can you can send to your family, you can buy new clothing and so on. So
Right.
they have some income from those parties as well. But
Mm-hmm.
the owner, he's responsible for his clothing,
Mm-hmm.
transportation, feed, accommodation. As normally they live with a commander. Uh, they have either guest house or somewhere. They're always they're really protective. They
Oh,
don't want them
yes.
all to go elsewhere because they are afraid if somebody else catch them. That's
Right.
why most of these dancing boys end up with death or life injuries because
Mm-hmm.
of this. When they go to competition, for example, if it's really good, for example, if he won the competition or everybody were cheering, now he's good, then his
Mm-hmm.
life is also in danger. So the other
Right.
40, somehow they try to encourage to take him. If they
Mm-hmm.
can't, then they try to kill him because they
Gosh.
don't want that. They have, like, unfortunately, they have come two commander as some type of wrong competition within each other. But who is suffering are these younger boys.
I think we saw that with Hafiz. Hafiz
Yeah,
was his name.
yeah,
He was the
yeah.
young boy
Yes.
that I think you mentioned he was one of the most sought after boys kind of in the area. People came from long distances, and he went back to his village to try to speak with his family, only to find out he had been murdered, what was likely by a corrupt officer. I mean, and then the juxtaposition of that being one of the experiences, and then the other side with, was it Imam who was talking about he wants to, when he turns 18, have his own boys? I mean, both those experiences are extremely jarring and completely opposite. How do you feel like one of them was more true than the other, or do you feel like both of those happened equally? How did you witness those realities?
Well, let me give you some more information about that documentary you just mentioned, a little scene. When the audience watch, it's only 52 minutes documentary, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know the background, how long we worked on this. That documentary took 19 months or 18 months
Wow.
from beginning. 11 months or 11 or 12 months off and on we were filming. We were traveling all the way from the UK with a team inside Afghanistan. And then we
Wow.
were searching, finding the same team, checking out what is progress, what's happened, and so on. It's not like everything happened in 2 weeks and filmed 2 weeks, came back. So
Right.
filming took almost 12 months. Another 6 months we hit it. And
Mm-hmm.
so it took a really, it wasn't easy to investigate such a big taboo subject.
Right.
We went times and times and different areas and to find out every single details about every characters. So yeah, as you've seen, Afiz, originally when I was in the country at the beginning of the film, I was invited to one dancing boy party or
Okay.
Bacha Bazi party.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was on the New Year Eve in Afghanistan. I was there. And then suddenly my friend's friend came. He said they were invited in this commander's house, ex-commander's house, and they have some entertainment. And he said, probably there could be some dancing boy. Then I heard about this, but I never seen it physically.
Yeah.
Then immediately something came to my mind. I said, well, let's see what is going on there. So when I seen the first time, I seen Afiz was dancing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the first time, when he was putting himself down, and this was the
Yes.
first, that was kind of a research trip for me. And then I seen one guy was filming proper, because I was just I was a family visit there, and I was there. I wasn't there for work. So then these friends invited me to that. Then I got the opportunity. I thought maybe this could be something. And when I went there, and I seen the cameraman, and he was filming everything. So after the party finished, immediately I went to that cameraman. I said, can I get all this footage? Just for my own staff to just check and see what I can do. Well, the idea came actually, suddenly the idea came to my mind. But the other thing was, because there was all commander with weapons, people like Welty, they were involved. I at the beginning, I thought it could be really difficult to expose, because these commander are really crazy, they can kill you at any time.
Yeah,
But still, I got all the footage. And when I came back to the UK, and then I thought about this, and I tried to approach to some people and try to manage to get some contacts and so on. So when I researched that, then I thought, yes, I can expose this. So when I came here, as I said, then I talked with two elders, like they're my dad's friends. They're really educated. So whatever I was doing, I was taking their idea and opinion as well on something to just see, because I don't want to make the nation damage or something. Because Afghans are really, what can I say? They're really keen to not expose something who gave bad names to them. When I went to this guy and explained everything, I said, this is Bacha Bazi, you see that, and so on. I want to make a documentary. I want to expose this. What do you think? Then he said, no, be away from these things, because you will give bad names to all Afghans around the world, and so on. Then again, I heard their opinions on that. But when I came back, I thought a lot. Then I thought about a different angle. I said, okay, they were keep misusing for years and years and decades, and still we are trying to hide. It's not helpful for these poor children. So somehow I have to stop. And I thought about different angle. I said he's talking about one angle, but my angle is, journalist or filmmaker, when they want you to make something, they want to get a good result. They want to stop something.
Of course.
So my idea was to stop something, put pressure on Afghan government or some, because NATO were there. Billions of dollars, pounds, and euros was raising by the name of children in Afghanistan at the time. But where the money was spending?
Where was it going?
Where is it going actually? Let's help them. So that was my idea. Then with that idea, we had a meeting with my colleagues here. Then we talked to obviously PBS Frontline, and we made a promo from the film I already at. Then we explained what we are going to do, making a film about these young children, both PBS Frontline and Channel 4 in the UK. They both agreed to do that. Then we started working, and then we started going every time, like filming for 10 days, coming back, and then we were thinking, okay, now we need this, let's go again to do this. So we traveled several times to film that.
And you said it had taken 6 months, or sorry, 12 months to film and then 6 months to edit after.
Yes, before researching, before doing all these things, just 18 months to film and to edit. make
Wow.
the film ready.
And then how was the reaction when it came out? I mean, it is a very, very well and highly regarded documentary. I mean, I think since its release, but even especially now. But I'd love to hear about how the reaction was from the UK and then also from the Afghanistan perspective.
Well, the ordinary Afghans were really, mainly they were angry on me, the one who didn't think deeply
Uh-huh.
until they realized, yeah, that was good for them. Afghan government, as soon as the film aired on the night, they
Uh-huh.
acted really quick, really,
Oh,
really quick. The
okay.
next day, all these pedophiles has been arrested, including the singer,
Uh-huh.
that Ghulam, the restaurateur, if you've seen on the film, he flee,
Mm-hmm.
and Dastagir ran
Fled as
away to
Mhm.
Iran, and another character we had. They are all gone. The only person who has been arrested was the singer, and obviously it was a corruption. He was in prison for 2 3 weeks. Then he paid $5,000 or $6,000, and he released. So same
Wow.
thing. Dastagir and other pedophiles were away for a year or so. Then they paid obviously, and they came back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was become really dangerous for me actually because they had
Oh,
connection.
oh, I'm
For
sure.
example, these warlords, for example, wherever province you go, they knows the police chief, they knows that commander, this commander. So somehow, whenever I was traveling to Afghanistan, I was receiving a call, mostly from Dastagir. Uh,
Oh.
I know you're here, and I will do something to you, and this and that.
Oh.
Most of the trips I had after the film, I was getting these threats. Still when I go
Yeah.
to Afghanistan, so because they didn't want this to be exposed on this way.
And how do you think that's affected your ability? Because since then you've gone back and done other reporting in
Yeah, yeah.
Afghanistan, like with the Opium Bride. Has it changed your approach to filming? Do you have security when you go? How do you protect yourself in those settings?
Well, I never had as a journalist. My opinion is it's wrong to have some guards with a team because
Yeah.
it's not right in my opinion. But I've tried to be low profile
Mm-hmm.
and going very quietly and doing my work and come back.
Mm-hmm.
But still somehow they knew on Opium Brides. It's very interesting. I was following one woman. She was the main character. One of the
Mm-hmm.
character was talking about the young girls,
Mm-hmm.
and I followed her in town and some of the places. Somebody recognized me and called to Dastagir, saying, "I've seen the same journalist with a camera
Uh-huh. Yeah.
following one woman around the town." Then what the Dastagir ordered this guy is a spotter. Then he said, well, he was with some of his friends. So basically, he couldn't do anything to me. But what
Yeah.
happened? Dastagir ordered this guy to go and aware that woman, tell the woman, be aware
Oh.
that whatever he's doing is going to be bad to you. It will give you a good picture of you
Oh.
and so on. Then
So he threatened her.
yeah, so when we left the area, somehow these spotters followed the woman all the way to his house.
Oh no.
Then they knocked the door, and the woman came. He said, "Do you know Najibullah Quraishi?" She said, "Yes, I know." Yeah, and then they said, "Yeah, we saw him. He was filming you around the town. Just make sure that he's not a good person. He will do something worldwide. He gave you a bad name and so on." So they are uneducated. Whoever I filmed after on, they thought maybe a similar Dastagir. I gave them the similar image.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
said, "No, we just warned you. We just warned you. Just make sure you will be bad in the eyes of the entire world, and is this and that." So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if they couldn't attack me or do something to me, they were
Mm-hmm.
approaching even to my characters later on.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that kind of leads into another question I have about how you manage that and the ethics of protection as a journalist. I mean, there could be repercussions, as we saw with one of the boys who fled and then they found him. You speak with victims, survivors, families, pimps, the officials. How do you keep the people you're interviewing safe as well? And what are the risks associated with these types of collaborations?
Well, the people we interviewed, the families and so on, they didn't know the background, what we are doing.
Hmm.
I really did on the other
Yeah.
side.
Okay.
So they thought it's just something we are talking with them. But as you can see, the younger boy Shafiq, we talk with the family at the
Hmm.
end,
Shafiq,
in
yeah.
which we found them alive, although they said he's dead. So I
Hmm.
told to the family and I said, this is the circumstances, and that's what we thought their life could be in danger. That's why we
Hmm.
moved them from their region.
Right.
A team of the journalists basically, and we protect them. When we move them financially, we help them and to his school, and he finished university, and now he's based somewhere safe in different country with his
Hmm.
family. So we are glad. So we pointed only them, like, oh, one family, they are in danger,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
we try to save him, and the
Yeah.
rest is all okay, all fine. For example, Ghulam is by, another boy, he was working in the bakery. Do you
Hmm.
remember in the restaurant, as he's saying he's
Yep.
angry on me and so on?
Hmm.
We offered that boy as well. We
Hmm.
could have supported him, but him and his family, somehow they have rejected, or they got threatened from these warlords, so they didn't want our offer. Like, uh,
What do you think is part of that rejection? Do you think it's fear that is motivating them to not want to take your help or protection?
well, it was hard for them to trust us, because they didn't know exactly who we are until
Hmm.
the film broadcasted worldwide. Then they probably realized, okay. But obviously, we
Yeah.
were in touch for another, I can say, several years. In
Right.
Because of their safety, we were always we had some people in the ground, some local fixers. Their identity was hidden, and some
Right.
people around, and to find out what's going on. But
Uh-huh.
especially their safety was very important to us. We
Hmm.
didn't want anyone, especially who is take part in the film, to be damaged. So
Right.
therefore, we were monitoring without their knowing, actually.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Well, it's good to hear that there was still some ways to kind of keep tabs on the situation even through the community. And I think it's also reassuring, in some ways to hear that the communities are so willing to look out for each other in these times and support each other where it can happen. I mean, outside of that kind of community aspect and the protection that that could provide, what systems do you think allow the Dancing Boys and Bacha Bazi to continue despite the global outcry against this practice?
Well, when something broadcast or public, at the time, everybody trying to not take parts. It was
Mhm.
same in Afghanistan. For
Mhm.
several years, it was a really taboo. Like,
Mhm.
even the people who had interest on Bacha Bazi, they were saying, "Oh, if the party is boys dancing, I'm not going to attend," because they are afraid. Even the
Mhm.
government, yeah, they passed a law in the parliament. Actually, in the
Mhm.
past, we didn't have any law regarding these misusing. But as
Mhm.
a result of this documentary, they brought a law, in a specific law, and passed it from the parliament at the time. So
Mhm.
if whoever attend Bacha Bazi, it was in prison for 1 year. I don't know how many thousands of Afghans they have to give fine. Uh,
Mhm.
it becomes something really, really taboo for everybody to not take part. And we were
Right.
glad. As a result of that, we had a good outcome.
Mhm.
But obviously, when the time passed, we still have people there. We still know there are taking some parties at the moment I'm talking, probably in some private houses around the country,
Right. Mhm.
without exposing widely, and within some collection of friends could be, but it's not like the past. Thing is, we stopped from that because it was become really common.
Mhm.
That horrible practice was become common within the nation. They were saying, okay, this is a normal thing, but they
Right.
wouldn't think of the the damage they give to the nation or to the boys or their family because they didn't know the background. Seen on the film how they go village to village, they find all these pimps going to these villages, giving false promises, finding these vulnerable children. Then they thought, okay, it's really good to be stopped because one day they could have come to our boys, young children could be in danger anywhere in the country.
Do you feel like international audiences misunderstand the complexities of these issues? I mean, I know you had talked about working with Radhika Kumaraswamy, the former special rep for the children in armed conflict. Was she one of the first people within the global network to kind of reach out to you to want to broadcast this topic, or did you guys already have a relationship before that?
Well, after the film, we knew each other actually, but
Okay.
internationally, still I get some messages, some comment when they see first time that documentary. They really shocked, and some were saying whenever I watch the film, I cry because of these children because it's really, and some are still asking if we know about those younger boys, if they're doing well, if they haven't armed with those pedophiles and so on. Some of them in social media are constantly in touch with me at least every 6 months, 3 months. She writes to me from America. She says, my heart is on them. I sometimes I think of them and what they are doing and so on. We get a really good feedback internationally, and everybody like sometimes we are all human, doesn't matter where are you from, which country you based. Close to that young boy, how they were misusing them.
Of
So
course.
therefore, I get a positive feedback and supportive feedback internationally from everywhere around the world, because that film later on, it broadcasted from everywhere. So everyone knows that. And after UK and America, it's gone to Canada, it's gone to Australia, it's gone to Germany, Denmark, almost everywhere.
I mean, I think it's one of the best documentary accounts of, but I think it's also one of the most famous and notable just accounts of this topic in general. I think, as I mentioned before we started recording, anyone that I've talked to about this topic always asks me if I've ever watched the Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, the PBS special. And it's because it was so, I mean, when you see it and especially you're talking to people, the victims, the survivors, the perpetrators, the families, I think it just paints this undeniable picture that you can't help but feel empathy or cry or feel sad to it. And I think as well, I at least find this when I talk to people about topics like trafficking and exploitation. I think it's not something everybody's aware of, but once you open your eyes to it and the processes, you see it everywhere and you see it in all aspects of life. And especially in situations where there's poverty and, really, really tough situations, people will be pushed into circumstances that you couldn't imagine being in your right mind or in a normal environment. With all of that said, though, I think I've observed that sometimes there is a resistance to talking about these hard topics. And we talk about that a lot during this banned book club because every book that we read is one that's been challenged or banned in school districts and libraries around the US. What do you see as a deterrent to talking about these hard conversations? Or when you find that people don't want to engage with the topic of the dancing boys, where do you think that comes from?
Well, most of the people, especially in the country, they had only one opinion. This topic will give, it's a like humiliation for the Afghan people, and you gave bad name to the entire world for Afghans. This was their main thing, actually. Other than that, they didn't have anything to say. But my argument was, okay, you're sitting back in a wealthy life or safe life somewhere in Europe or in the state, or even in Afghanistan. You live in town and you have everything, your child is safe, but you should care about the villages. Bear in mind, 85% of Afghan population live in a countryside, in a villages. And these 85% of population, they don't have education. They are uneducated mainly. And remember, we have 6% educated. And especially nowadays with the Taliban regime, obviously half of the population, which are women, they cannot go to school. But in the past, we have like over 90% uneducated. It's hard to explain the situation for these uneducated people which is the
Yeah.
majority of the people, especially in the villages. They
Mhm.
might still didn't like the way what I did, because they
Yeah.
don't think deeply. One day our child could be trapped on this. Let's
Right.
imagine this is my child. They
Yeah.
they don't they don't think like this. But
Mhm.
educated people, or the ones who live abroad, most of them were supportive. I get
Mhm.
really good comment. They were saying, yeah, I wish somebody could have done this before. How did you manage? Because most of them were afraid of my safety, because they knew that these warlords are really, really dangerous, and they can
One of the
all control.
repercussions.
For me, I don't care. I do my professional work and I expose that I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about one nation. I
Yeah.
I try to save some lives, uh,
Mhm.
whatever like outcome, either it's dangerous for my life or not, but I done my duty.
Well, and it's really interesting what you're saying. And I guess just kind of speaking back to what you were mentioning about people having the reaction that perhaps this is portraying Afghanistan in a negative light. Perhaps we shouldn't tell this story. I guess it sounds like you had a lot more trust in the media and the public perception than some other people did, that they would be able to hear the story and receive it in the right way. Were you happy with how it was received, or do you feel like it maybe perpetuated some negative ideas that it didn't intend to?
Well, sometimes it's very common and logic when you get some feedback. If it's a bad feedback, obviously you got stressed and you don't like. But again, as an experienced journalist, when you make something, probably you can't make everyone happy. There are some people thinking negatively, there are some people think positively, but it's really hard to make everybody happy.
Mhm.
It's very common.
That's
So
true.
whatever I was doing, I was thinking all the angles,
Mhm.
and then I was thinking the outcome. Okay, if I make this, what is are the positive? If there are 90% or positive, like, okay, I stop this, I help with these children, people will aware of these things, practice. For example, I was always when I was a child, I was hearing about this dancing boy, but I never
Right.
seen it, and I
Mhm.
didn't know the background.
Mhm.
So the majority of the people, I could say 90% of the nation in Afghanistan, or maybe 95, 98% of the people, they don't know the background. They was
Mhm.
just hearing there is party, some boys are dancing. Okay, where
Right.
these boys are came from, they have no clue. How they
Mhm.
got them, they didn't have clue.
Mhm.
How is their life like? They didn't have clue. Either they are safe or in danger, they didn't have clue. So with
Mhm.
this specific film, I expose everything.
Mhm.
These boys are in danger, how they find these young boys, how is their family like, all the backgrounds, single small things or backgrounds they had no clue in the past. For me, I'm proud to do that. I never feel guilty or never regret by doing that. Never, ever. Despite the fact I get some negative feedback from Afghans, officially, well, mainly. Even
Mhm.
have you seen the interview from New York when she
Mhm.
mentioned about the dancing boys? She said everyone gone quiet,
Yes.
including the president. So it's mean
Yeah.
even the president he doesn't want to talk about this taboo subject. He was receiving lots of helps, lots of funds by different
Mhm.
names. This is women right. This is
Mhm.
protect children. This is safety
Mhm.
children. From different
Right.
organization, all the money was going there. So
Right.
then, in one angle, they never thought about it, or they never want you to touch. So
Yeah.
if our president at the time doesn't want to touch on this topic, it means it was really taboo subject. Really, there was a click point where you shouldn't touch. It's a danger, red button. What I did, I pressed the red button. I try to alert everybody.
I think it seems like as well, outside of some of the negative feedback that you were just speaking about, I mean, it seems like there's been monumental change that's been attempted to happen. And as you said, the amount of Bacha Bazi that's in practice today has significantly gone down to before. So I think as well, it's uncomfortable to speak about these types of things. And especially when it's so heavy. And something like, again, I was saying with exploitation and trafficking, there's so many layers to it. I mean, do you tackle the poverty first? Do you tackle corruption? Especially in areas where there's conflict and so much instability. It's not just snap your fingers and this one thing will happen. You have to go through so many layers of support and restructuring and conditioning. And yeah, I think that that's exactly why it's so important to keep these conversations and these topics in the center, despite, as you said, some of the feedback or even with threats that you had.
Yeah.
It was really brave to keep it. I'd love to talk a little bit about Clover Media. I'm aware that we're wrapping up and short on time, but would you tell us a little bit about Clover Media and the work that you're doing there? I know you guys had come out with a documentary last year that was nominated for the Amnesty Media Awards, The Base. So would you talk a little bit about the work that's going on there?
Well, with the work we did together, we already achieved lots of documentaries. I can say since 2009, we have achieved almost 35 internationally awards. We have nominated to BAFTA twice. And I personally won the Emmy Award 4 times, lots of other One World or Rory Pick or all these awards. And we're glad that the world recognized our work. And I should thank to these broadcasters for supporting us, because without them, we couldn't do all this work. So behind all these works we have done, if there wasn't a television or a channel or a broadcasters, so we couldn't do anything. And I would like to thank them as well as always. So yeah, we are still working at the moment. Also, we're researching on different topics. So hopefully soon we will start filming. As you know, we cannot expose the stories about documentaries.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you give us a little teaser, but probably not.
If you say something, it will be exposed. So
yes, okay, cool. Well, I'll keep my eyes open. We all will here at Context Studios. So I guess I have a couple questions just to close this off, if you don't mind. So with everything that we talked about today, do you think it's possible to eradicate this practice altogether? And if so, how do we start?
Well, specific that topic or that practice, I can say at the current regime, it has been stopped. Maybe less than one person, some people are doing idly from the government, because the Taliban or the current regime is really against this practice. It's really forbidden on even religiously. In the book we follow, it's completely banned to use the boys or exploitation of the boys or making them to dance. So every regime they took over, there are some negative side, there are some positive side. Although they have so many negative sides, for example, they don't allow women for study, work, and so on. People are like financially or economically, they're really bad in the country. The economy is really down. But the other side, you can see security within the country is good, or they don't use these vulnerable boys. Especially for me to investigate and make that type of film, for me, a good sign, like at least they do something. Yeah, in the previous regime, because there were different groups, different networks, everybody had weapons, they couldn't touch them, and they were doing whatever they wanted to. They didn't care about the law, they didn't care about the rules, because they had money and they had weapons, they had main fighters, separate fighters. But luckily with this regime, no. There is no any different network, different groups, no weapons in the hand of everybody. It's controlled strictly by the Taliban. And they have, if they find out somebody sleep with a boy, they just, according to Sharia law, according to Quran, they put him in the wall and they throw the wall. He should have died under the wall. and
Okay.
they do it. When they say it, they do it. They're really restricted. So
Yeah.
therefore, everybody was trying to be away because they could have died under the wall. So nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to die under the wall and break
Or the law.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
they knows this regime are really restricted, and they do it. They don't care
Yeah.
about it.
I will say that is similar to what I've heard as well, speaking with some other people about this, that they have a very strict rule of law and their code of it is very, very strong. Lots to criticize as well, of course, but I think that is interesting to point out and kind of consider that juxtaposition of when this practice has really emerged over the last 40 years and who was really in control over that time. For stories like the one you produced, or also like for the book club, The Kite Runner, there's lots of conversation about it being banned and removed in schools. What would you say about censorship in schools and the book ban, specifically about topics related to this?
Well, first of all, I didn't read the book. I think I think
That's
the book
okay.
was written after we made the film. Or we were on the investigation, or
Uh-huh.
very busy with our own work,
Of course.
and I think after the film showed, we seen the book. We heard.
Okay.
Well, I heard the book. It was
Yeah.
kind of touched on these parts, like the people were using voice and so on. But the book has been read by worldwidely by lots of people, yeah,
Yeah.
millions of people, especially in the state. Because
Uh-huh.
whenever I was came across with, they were saying, "I read the Kite Runner. I read the Kite Runner," and but unfortunately, I never get a chance to read the book
Yeah.
because writer is different, and when we document is completely different.
Yeah.
For us, if we don't see anything, we don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the person, we don't buy words. We need to see it. This is
Right.
this is our mind set up like this. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody, to be honest, if somebody writes something sitting home, probably they were doing lots of investigation. I admire them, I respect them, and I'm sure they have lots of sources, and without that, they don't do that. But they still, for me as a filmmaker, I say, well, how can I believe that? But for us, even sometimes we came across with some interviewee. They're saying, when I was there, I did that, claiming lots of things. I said, do you have any mobile footage? Can you prove it? Can you show something?
Mm-hmm.
Without seeing it, we cannot believe it.
Right.
And we have to, even in the background, if we interview somebody,
Right.
we need to show what they have in the background, because our audience or the viewer should also believe this is documentary. This is not a book or a story or newspaper
Right.
and so on. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I never read the book, but I knew, since I heard from other people.
Yeah.
I think they also documented, and through their sources, they mentioned every single. The writers are really good at these things.
He works with the UNICEF,
Yeah,
the UNHCR. So he's done, outside of just his work, which I think has inspired a lot of people, even though it's a fictional story, he's
yeah.
said it's based off of different true events or experiences that he's heard
Mhm,
of or that he faced.
mhm.
But yeah, so he's busy. So for the final question, this is about you. From all the stories that you've documented and the heavy themes and topics that are related to them, what continues to give you hope in this world and in producing film?
Well, I'm hoping that every filmmaker or every broadcaster, everyone get courage. There are so many hidden things in the world to be documented for the
Mm-hmm.
awareness of the nation. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter which nation or in entire world. For example, uh, everybody knows about Gaza, what was going on, what is going on. Although it has been documented, but because they are not allowed to go deeply and document their life, and I wish
Mm-hmm.
one day I get opportunity to expose that. These vulnerable children, again, children. For me,
Mm-hmm.
the most vulnerable are children. Was
Yeah.
child and they can't do anything. For example, 5 years, 6 years, they hit purposely or they killed. I don't know. They have been using in different purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there are other journalists expose all these hidden stories around the world. Could be lots of topics in the safest countries, like in the US or in America. I did one research, and I don't know, every month 2,000 something young children has been raped. If you read a survey, like every single day, I think 2,000 something, or every month. I forgot. It's horrible, like the age of 6, 5, 4 years girls has been raped by somebody. It's horrible. It has to be stopped somehow. We keep looking on these things, or the government have a strict policy for the one who committing this crime. Very shortly, put in prison for a year, and they even don't spend a year. They count day and night. 6 months later, he come out doing the same thing.
Totally. I mean, I think that's, unfortunately, it's kind of the universal rule or the universal reality of what happens in these cases. It sounds like, in Afghanistan, they're able to get out after 6 months. In the US, with things like Epstein, there's been zero accountability for the victims of those crimes. And as you were saying, 2,000 kids, I mean, that's an unfathomable number, especially if it's daily or even monthly.
File again, it's corruption. It's similar. I can compare with Afghanistan, because with the high rank, nobody can touch them. With a lower rank, it's on the media every day. But lower rank, probably they already arrested some people. They're already questioning. Somebody has been resigned already. But I'm really sorry about the victims, because they didn't get justice. High rank, who has power, nobody can touch them, unfortunately.
No,
again,
not yet.
for me, a very unfair world. They follow the rules, the law on somebody, but they don't on someone.
Yeah, it's completely inequitable. I couldn't agree more.
Unfair world.
Sadly, I think that is the reality, and I think it also deters people from wanting to come forward and speak out about it, because it just puts people through this traumatic process, and people don't always feel like there is a result. So I think it was really amazing that with your documentary, The Dancing Boys, and with others, you've collaborated with so many willing parties, and not only collaborated with them, but continued to look after their well-being after. It's pretty incredible. So thank you so much for creating that documentary and sharing it. And thank you so much for your time today. This was such an insightful conversation, and I know the members of our book club will really, really enjoy this. So thank you again so much. Well, guys, that was such a crazy and incredibly informative interview. I have done a little bit of research on this topic. I mean, obviously prepping for this interview, but also just in my own time. I have published a couple articles I'll link below talking about trafficking and human trafficking in Afghanistan, just like what the Dancing Boys are. He has another film, The Opium Brides, which is kind of the female side of this topic, how young women are exploited, not young, even young women, girls, children are exploited and forced to marry people that are part of the drug network to pay off family debts. I won't say more than that. It's another big topic. I'd love to cover that at some other point. Maybe if and when we read A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me for this interview, and I really, really appreciate your guys' support. Now we are on Spotify as well as YouTube, so you can find it both places. Feel free to check out all of my past videos in the playlist that's tagged here. And yeah, we have to keep reading like freedom depends on it, because it does. And as you can see, these stories are more important than ever to get out with all the restriction to migration and things that are happening in the US with ICE. I feel like I say that every episode, but it really does just feel like sometimes we're going back, and we have to remember, stick together, stay strong, keep reading between the lines, and stay tuned at the Context Studio for more content and ideas on how to do that. Bye.